Tensions are rising, borders are tightening, and some European cities are seeing daily protests, power cuts, and spontaneous airport lockdowns. If you're traveling to Europe this summer, stop and watch this first. From AI surveillance to quiet terror alerts, 2025 is not the Europe you remember. Here are the 8 biggest updates every traveler needs to know before they book. 8. Rising terror. Alerts across France, Belgium, and Sweden. You may not hear it on the news, but Europe's terror threat level has quietly increased in 2025, especially in France and Sweden. After a series of politically motivated knife and vehicle attacks in late 2024, multiple EU countries have quietly upgraded their national alert systems. Including parts of Paris, Marseille, and Lyon. In Sweden, the security police, SAPO, elevated their threat level to 4 out of 5, citing realistic attack planning and suspected extremist cells. One American tourist was injured in Brussels during a New Year's Eve stampede, triggered by a false alarm. "We didn't know what was happening, we just ran," she later said. In response, armed military patrols are now common at airports, train stations, and major tourist sites. And while officials encourage business as usual, the reality is different. You may face sudden lockdowns, armed bag checks, and route closures without explanation. If you're heading to Western Europe this year, you need to know the alert level before you land. Stick with me, because the next update affects Americans directly, and it's getting people pulled from airport lines in real time. 7. U.S. passports are being flagged for secondary screening in key EU airports. You arrive in Rome, Madrid, or Munich. You scan your passport, and instead of walking through, you're asked to step aside. In 2025, more U.S. travelers are being flagged for additional identity verification under Europe's Entry-Exit System, EES. EES launched EU-wide this year, and it's designed to log every non-EU citizen's entry, exit, and biometric data. But American travelers are reporting unexpected slowdowns, extra questions, and even random detentions, especially those who've traveled frequently or recently changed passports. One traveler arriving in Frankfurt said, "They scanned my passport, looked confused, and then took me to a side room. No reason given." Many of these flags are tied to AI-based travel pattern risk scores. If you've taken multiple one-way trips, switched destinations frequently, or visited Middle East or Eastern conflict regions, your profile may trigger a soft alert, even if your record is clean. Worse, you may not even know you're flagged until you land, and there's no appeal process. If you're flying into France, Germany, Italy, or the Netherlands, plan for up to 2 extra hours at immigration, and be ready to explain your entire itinerary, including why you visited certain countries before. The next update is even stranger. It affects your smartphone. 6. Carrying an empty phone can get you questioned. You bought a burner phone, or maybe you wiped your device before travel. In 2025, that's a red flag. European border agents, especially in the UK, Poland, and Spain, are now trained to spot data-thin devices, meaning smartphones with little to no social activity, contacts, or browsing history. These phones are often associated with smuggling, fraud, or extremist anonymity. So yes, if your phone is too clean, you might be asked to unlock it and explain why. One traveler arriving in London was taken to a secondary room after agents noticed his phone had no SIM card activity and no recent photos. He was held for 3 hours, searched, and warned his passport could be flagged on future visits. UK Border Force now defines suspicious devices as communications hardware lacking digital fingerprint consistency. In other words, if your phone looks like it was prepped for secrecy, you'll get treated like a suspect. This includes recently reset phones, dual SIM phones with inactive secondary lines, travel with multiple devices but no clear reason why you're allowed to clear your data, of course. But in 2025, digital silence is a loud signal. Coming up, protests in Europe are hitting tourists unexpectedly, and one famous destination is now a hotspot for police clashes. 5. Tourist hotspots are being shut down by protests and clashes. You're headed to a cafe in central Paris, but the street's on fire? Riot shields, smoke bombs, trains not running. Welcome to the new normal in parts of Europe. In 2025, protests against inflation, labor laws, immigration, and foreign policy are erupting across major EU cities. France, Germany, and the Netherlands have seen hundreds of demonstrations since January, and tourists are getting caught in the middle. Earlier this year, travelers in Athens were trapped inside a hotel lobby for 6 hours as tear gas filled the square outside. In Milan, tourists couldn't reach their Airbnb due to a citywide taxi strike and protest barricades. A U.S. tourist in Barcelona said, "We were told to avoid La Rambla by locals because it was turning violent." These protests aren't small or predictable. They're often spontaneous, and local police aren't shy with their response. You may find metro stations closed without notice, flights delayed, or tours canceled on arrival. To stay safe, travelers are being urged to Check protest calendars online. Download local safety alert apps like FR Alert in France. Avoid government buildings, plazas, and union areas after 5 p.m. Next, we reveal a creepy new change to how border agents are identifying you before you even land. 4. Facial recognition is now used before you arrive? You haven't even touched down in Europe, but border agents already know what you look like. That's because in 2025, facial recognition is now being used pre-arrival at over 30 European airports. When you book your flight, airlines collect biometric data via mobile check-in, e-visa apps, or loyalty programs. That data is shared with immigration authorities, meaning your face is scanned against watch lists before you even scan your passport. A traveler from New York said, "I never took a biometric photo, but they called me by name when I stepped up." This system is already active in countries like Germany, Spain, the Netherlands, and Finland, and expanding fast. Even boarding pass scanners are being phased out in favor of biometric-only gates. In some cases, your face will be your boarding pass. Here's where it gets weird. If the system detects a mismatch, say your passport photo is older or your app photo looks filtered, you might be pulled for manual ID verification or flagged for fraud. You didn't sign up for it. You can't opt out. And it's not always accurate. So, yes, in 2025, Europe may know more about your face than you do. Next up, one change that sounds helpful but has been causing chaos for unprepared travelers. 3. Medical care access is now limited for tourists in several countries. You fall, you need stitches, you rush to the nearest hospital, and they turn you away unless you pay up front. In 2025, several European countries have quietly restricted emergency medical access for uninsured non-EU travelers, including Americans. Due to rising healthcare costs and refugee strain, Spain, Portugal, Greece, and parts of Italy now require immediate payment or valid travel insurance, even for emergencies. In Athens, a traveler from Chicago broke her ankle hiking and was denied treatment until she could show 3,000 euros in advance funds. Previously, tourists could rely on public hospitals for basic care and bill later. Now, if you're uninsured or unable to pay, you may be rerouted to private clinics or denied altogether. Here's what's changed. Travel insurance cards are now being scanned at intake. Non-payment patients may be listed as unresolvable, delaying treatment. Ambulance dispatchers are now asking insured or not before transport in rural zones. To avoid disaster, travelers should carry printed proof of insurance. Avoid relying solely on credit card coverage. Check if their destination has a reciprocal agreement with the US. Most don't. Coming up, a brand new system that's confusing millions and will be required before you even leave the airport. 2. The new ETIS system is causing massive confusion. You booked your flight, your passport is valid, but there's one thing missing, and without it, you can't board. In 2025, the long-delayed ETIS system has officially launched, and many Americans still don't know it's required. ETIS, European Travel Information and Authorization System, is now mandatory for US citizens visiting 30-plus European countries, including popular destinations like France, Spain, Italy, and Greece. It's not a visa, but it functions like one. You must apply online before departure, pay a €7 fee, be approved within minutes or weeks. But here's the kicker. ETIS isn't linked to your passport. If you forget to apply or mistype your info, you'll be denied boarding at your home airport. One American couple was turned away at JFK en route to Paris after entering the wrong passport expiry date. No refund, no rebooking. And unlike a visa, ETIS can be revoked automatically if your profile is later flagged due to travel history, unpaid fines, or algorithmic risk scores. Airlines are now required to verify ETIS before printing boarding passes, but many smaller carriers are still adjusting, leaving travelers stranded and confused at check-in counters. Think your passport alone will get you through Europe in 2025? Think again. Coming up next, the final update every traveler needs, because it affects where you can go, how long you stay, and who's watching when you leave. 1. New digital exit records could block you from re-entering Europe. You finish your trip, head to the airport, and fly home. But what you don't know is Europe just tracked your every move. And now your return trip might be denied. In 2025, the EU's entry-exit system, EES, is fully operational. And it doesn't just log when you enter it, logs when you leave where you've been and how long you stayed. If you overstay even by a day, miss a scan, or fail to exit through an approved port, you could face a multi-year re-entry ban. One American student overstayed by 48 hours due to a train strike and is now blocked from the Schengen zone for 3 years. This system uses biometric data, facial plus fingerprint scans, automated border logs, and travel history from connected airlines and ferries. The issue? Many travelers don't realize that private exits, like driving out of France to Switzerland or flying a budget airline without exit validation, don't always register properly. That triggers a phantom overstay that could mark your passport. EES is now live in France, Germany, Spain, Italy, and 22 other countries. One mistake, one missed exit scan, and you could be locked out of Europe for years. Europe in 2025 is still beautiful, but it's no longer simple. Don't get turned away at the gate. Stay smart, travel sharp. See you in the next one. See you in the